A few weeks ago, I posted a video about the things I no longer spend money on. For example, Starbucks coffee and manicure. There was a comment saying, if I couldn't afford coffee or having my nails done, then I have no business buying designer bags or jewelry, which I happen to enjoy. To be honest, I wasn't offended by the comment because I used to have the same thinking. As soon as I started making a living, I was pretty much buying everything I could afford. My bottom line was simple, namely to not get into debt. But soon I realized I had a lot of clutters but very little savings. Luckily for me, I found minimalism. Even though I don't aspire to be the perfect minimalist, minimalism gave me the inspiration to want to be more financially responsible. So around the same time, I started reading a lot of books about personal finance and money. Naturally, every author has a different story to tell, so there's a variety of advice on the table. For example, some authors talk about being really frugal with the aim to achieve financial independence as early as possible, such as the millionaire teacher. Others talk about leveraging debts to create a healthy cash flow, such as rich dad, poor dad. Whenever I read a book, I like to keep an open mind because I like to think that I can learn something from everyone. But there's one book that really speaks to me, and that is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Ramit talks about how by cutting out everything that you don't value, not only can you invest for your future, you can also enjoy what you really value without any guilt. I find Ramit's perspectives to be very refreshing because he's not suggesting that we should deprive ourselves of absolutely everything with the sole purpose of reaching a certain number in our bank account. He recognizes that we all have things that we value and it's okay to enjoy them as long as we are smart about it. And to give you some examples, Ramit talks about how he would splurge on really expensive cashmere jumpers because he enjoys looking put together. In contrast, he doesn't care about cars, so he drives a second-hand Toyota. Ramit also loves paying for really expensive and fancy holidays and hotels, but he doesn't own a house. And this is a very successful individual who can afford all these things, but yet he doesn't buy everything just because he can. Now, I'm not nearly as accomplished as Ramit, but reading about that was really eye-opening and reassuring because I used to think I was crazy for the way I spend. I mean, I love a good designer bag, but I also religiously pack my lunch and I don't spend money on manicures, souvenirs, high heels, and so on. At first, I did that with the intention to remove chaos and to expedite my financial goals. But now it has become a lifestyle that I really enjoy. I think when you know what you value, not only will you save money, you will also save time, space, and attention. And if you're talking about luxury items, knowing where to draw the line is even more important because of something called the Diderot effect. This is a phenomenon where buying something nice tends to create a spiral of consumption, which leads you to acquire more and more new things. For example, if you buy an Hermes Birkin bag, you might feel like adding an expensive twilly, and soon you might feel like replacing your whole wardrobe to complement this beautiful bag. In fact, a viewer once told me she even contemplated about upgrading her car because of a new Birkin bag. Same goes with everything else we spend money on. If you've ever done any home improvement project, you know it's so easy to open up a can of worms. So it really helps to define what you value and what you don't, because otherwise a designer bag could potentially influence the way we dress, where we eat, and how we shop and live. Some of you know I've been on a break from my day job for about a year. I recently decided to go back and do 1 to 2 days a week because as much as I enjoy my solitude, I'm beginning to feel a little isolated. Anyway, I only had the courage to take the plunge and go on a break because I know exactly how much I need every month to live a life that I enjoy. And you know what? Just by removing everything that I don't value, I was able to reduce my expenses substantially without compromising my quality of life. I then used that figure to factor into my investment portfolio. And all of a sudden, the idea of leaving my job didn't seem as scary anymore. And that's the thing. Until you sit down and take some time to identify what you need to be happy, you won't know how much you need. Think about it. If you never define what is enough for you, technically, you will never have enough. I cannot explain how liberating it feels to know what I value because it gives me a number to work with. Like I said, I am returning to the professional workforce, but it's comforting to know that I can always rely on the option of a mini retirement when the time is right. Something else I really encourage everyone to do is to reflect on the non-material things that you really value. Sometimes we buy material things because they make us feel a certain way, at least for a short while. For example, whenever I was stressed at work, I would go shopping, and when I bought a Chanel bag, I felt really happy because it felt like I had some kind of control over my life. But really, the control that I desired was deeper than that. The control I desired was the ability to say no to overworking, toxic people, and unfair working environment. It was then that I realized I really needed to work on having more leverage. This means being mindful with my spending, diversifying my incomes, and acquiring different skill sets. For you, it might be writing a book, traveling the world, spending more time with your family, whatever it is. This is your overarching non-material goal, and it will help you stay away from a lot of the unnecessary distractions. I also want to talk about compound effect because I think it's very much related to what we are talking about today. Now, whatever you want to achieve, every small action you take day after day will eventually compound into something big. Take exercising for example. If you run 10 minutes, you might not see the results the next day, but if you do it day after day for a year, the difference can be amazing. Similarly, if you eat 5 donuts today, you might look and weigh exactly the same the next day, but can you imagine doing that day after day for a year? And you know what? Money works exactly the same way. The idea is really not to skimp on a coffee or a manicure, but to create a healthy spending mindset, just so you're not buying every random thing just because you can. Instead, why not use that money to create the kind of compound effect that will work in your favor? This can be in the form of improving a skill by taking a course, investing in the stock market, and so on and so forth. Now, if you ever feel like cutting out anything from your life is an act of deprivation, I really recommend decluttering your home because when you see how many things you are getting rid of, it can be the most effective wake-up call. I know that was the case for me. I remember the first time I decluttered my home. I was shocked to see how many things I wasn't using. In fact, I didn't even remember I had certain things. This just made me question the whole dynamic of my own consumption. At the end of the day, those things represented the hours I didn't have to work, the holidays I could have gone on, the money I could have invested, the time I could have spent reading so many life-changing books. You get the idea. That completely changed me as a person, and I no longer feel any fear of missing out when I choose not to buy something. For my wardrobe, I did most of the heavy lifting years ago, which means my closet is a lot more curated now. So in the last 2 years, I've only done fairly minor adjustments here and there. Now, when I first came across minimalism, I felt really conflicted about owning designer handbags and jewelry because most of the minimalists I saw online owned a very tiny capsule wardrobe. On top of that, designer brands were never in the picture. On the other hand, the fashion bloggers who feature designer brands seem to wear everything designer from head to toe. Most of them drive really nice cars, they dine in really fancy restaurants, and always seem to be shopping in Paris. It made me feel like I could only be one thing or the other. In fact, I did attempt both lifestyles, but neither was sustainable. Basically, I used to shop a lot, but deep down, I was always directionless and stressed. And when I came across minimalism, I tried to approach it with quite an extreme manner, only to end up feeling like I was really deprived. So now I've decided the perfect balance is to acknowledge what I value, enjoy them responsibly, and happily let go of the rest. Down below, I would really appreciate if you can share one material and one non-material things that you really value. For me, my top priority is to have options because that allows me to make better choices and I can also be more available for myself and my family. As for material things, I would probably choose jewelry over bags, simply because I wear them a lot more. So yeah, I cannot wait to see the conversation down below. That's it from me today. Thank you for being here, and I will see you soon.